Greetings, everybody. My name is David Duford with Final Expense Agent Mentor, and today we are discussing and talking about the final expense industry with my agent, Chip. Chip works in a major Southeast city and has been a mentorship client of mine for the past 5 months, and he has had some excellent results since he started. We're going to discuss how the process has been since he's come aboard, kind of really reveal what the final expense industry is like from an actual producing agent, so that hopefully you, the listener, will learn how the final expense business works, what it's like, what the pros are, what the cons are, really just to get an insider's look to see how much success one can really have in this business. Now, Chip, just to tease a few of his stats, he's just had such an incredible start. Number one, his average case size is $912 in annual premium, which is absolutely astounding. The average agent closes around a $600 annual premium. And we're going to talk to him how he's been able to get larger case size. He also has 2 out of 3 people he actually sits with. He closes, so he's got about a 67% closed deal to appointment completion ratio. And his total return on investment, for every dollar that he's invested in his lead campaign, he's brought in $13 in premium, which, again, all these stats I've mentioned are absolutely astounding. So I think the conversation we're going to have is going to be very beneficial for whether you're a new agent and you're looking for tips and ways to improve your game, or whether you're experienced and you want to know what Chip has done to be successful. So ask Chip to introduce himself, and thank you for being on the call.
Well, David, thank you a lot for inviting me to talk to you a little bit about my successes. Again, my name is Chip, and I do live and work in a major U.S. city in the southeast United States. Basically, I met David through the insurance forum, and my background is such. Everybody comes to this business from a different background, different perspective. I spent the last 20 years before I started this in medical sales. I've sold to doctors, to CEOs, to clinicians. I've been very successful in those 20 years. So that's helped me, I think, in terms of the sales aspect. But you don't have to have a sales background to make this business work. I really believe that. I've had my insurance licenses since 2009. I've just started really using them over the last 8-10 months. And before I worked with David, I actually was with a captive life insurance company, one of the biggies, for about 6 months, and found out quickly that that's not what I wanted to do. So hence by doing a lot of reading, a lot of research, and talking to a lot of different people about who's successful and why.
And what piqued your interest after your experience at the captive agency? What caused you to look elsewhere, and why did you feel like you decided to go the final expense route? Because as may or may not our listeners know, working in a captive agency where you sell the top 5% or more of a white collar is much different from the final expense prospects that we see.
Well, what got me interested was, first off, with a captive company, you're just that, you're captive. You have to sell the products that they offer. Occasionally, if they can't meet the needs of the client, then you can go outside of the company, and they'll usually have a brokerage, so you'll be able to go through that. I just found that even though I was dealing with more white-collar people, it was okay, but it wasn't enjoyable. This is one thing I want to do. This is the last thing I'm going to do before I retire, and I want to enjoy it. And so being captive, it was okay. There was a lot of support there, but I just didn't click for me. I didn't really like it. And so what made me gravitate towards final expense was that, one, I know I'm really helping people that really, truly want help and just don't know where to turn. And so with final expense, obviously, they're very, very, very concerned about if they pass or when they pass away, but they don't leave their families with these big bills. And so they're really, really focusing on just being able to help them out when they do pass. And so basically, in this industry, I enjoy helping people. The clientele is much, much different, as we'll get into later on. But I just feel it's very rewarding, and to be quite honest with you, the pay is very good too.
So, kind of building on, your decision to go into final expense, of course, that's usually, like you, a lot of agents see other agents as far as their success with it. They see that it's a little different. It's more focused and more of a captive situation. And a lot of people like that because it's a simple business model. It's not easy, but it's straightforward. You sell a group of people that typically are underserved. And you sell them, like you said, something that they really appreciate and are in desire of. Now, typically agents, they decide on the business, and their next decision is, where do I go to learn the business? Because as in anything, you have to learn the specifics on how to sell the product, but not only how to sell it, but what carriers to offer, how to basically work the system. Why did you choose the Final Expense Agent Mentor Program over what else was available to you, Chip?
Okay. I just wanted to tack on to the last question. One other thing is that this process versus in a captive agency this is more of a one-and-done deal. You meet them for first time, they're interested, present, show them what they can do with this, close them, and you're out the door. I like that. Other agencies in captive, when you're doing more white collar, you could be working on a project for 2 to 3 months, and because going back and forth between the insurance company and the client. So I just didn't want that. So bottom line is that be straightforward. You have a product, you have a client that needs that product, present that product, and you show the client why they need to get this product, and then they buy it. And that's how simple it is. But getting back to your original question here, I was actually, since 2009, I've been kind of lurking on the insuranceforums.net website, and I enjoy it because you learn a lot of information just by reading other people's posts. Now, granted, everybody's pretty much anonymous there, so you have to take a lot of what they say, somewhat with a grain of salt, but it's still, I think for somebody just starting out, it's a good way to get an overview of all the insurance, not just final expense, but any type of insurance at all. It's on that board. But when I decided to focus in on final expense, I obviously spent time on the final expense portion of that board, and I was looking for people who I thought were very successful. And basically, I want to emulate success. To me, that's the key ingredient to being successful, is to imitate somebody who is successful. So that was my number one focus in on that. And to be honest with you, David, I saw a lot of different people, and I talked to a lot of different people, but Giving kept popping up over and over again as something that's been very successful with final expense. And I read more about you, and then, of course, we traded emails for a while there, and then we chatted on the phone this past summer, and you were straight up with me. You said, Chip, this is nothing like you've ever done before, so understand that it's a good business. You can make a lot of money. You can be very successful. It can be very rewarding, but it's not your normal insurance sale. So going in, you were very straight up with me on that, and I appreciated that. The second thing about what I liked about your approach was that you were consultative. You basically were putting the prospects at ease, basically saying, this isn't rocket science, but I want to fully explain what this product can do for you, how it will help you out. And so I like that. The fact is that you're more of a consultant than a salesperson, and that's been me my entire career. So that in itself is also something that I think is very important and what drew me to you. And so after we got to talking, we, of course, I went on some ride-alongs with you, but we'll talk about that later. But felt that you're the real deal, and I know right now I made the right call.
Great. So, yeah, and you mentioned the ride-alongs. Now, it's kind of interesting, to say the least, when we started our relationship together. Of course, when I bring a new agent on, my first thing I encourage them to do is pick a time, within the next week or two to come down, and I want you to ride with me so you can see it out on a forum. And it's a total another thing to actually see it in person. And in my opinion, that's where all the learning really occurs. In my opinion, I think our ride-along was in some ways, I wouldn't say demoralizing, but why don't you go ahead and tell everybody how the first couple of days ride-along was for you and kind of what your initial thoughts were.
Well, when I was with a captive agency, we wore coat and ties to all our meetings. Well, of course, with final expense, you don't do that. You wear, slacks and a polo, things like that, but it's very casual because obviously you don't want to intimidate, or maybe they may think you're putting them down because you dress very nicely, and they're probably not. But when I went down to ride with you, I remember going out in the part of town that you no longer really work with, but first person we saw weighed 350 pounds and was basically a paranoid schizophrenic. He told us he was. And looking at him, and, we'd be talking in conversation, all of a sudden he'd be talking to himself. And I'm thinking, I looked over at you, I said, David, what did you get me into? But anyway, but it was an interesting meeting because it was like an extreme situation. This is not the norm, but it was an extreme. Of course, when I asked him, remember I asked you, I said, is this the normal person we meet? And of course he laughed and said, no, it's not. So actually I was kind of glad to see that because it kind of prepared me for the wild swing of types of people that you do meet. As I said, this business isn't for everybody. And
right.
But I think if you can master it and be realistic, that you can make a darn good living with this thing, with this business, and be happy and knowing that you're making a difference. I know that sounds philosophical there, but it's true. You like to make money, but you like to also make a difference.
Right.
But getting back to seeing the first gentleman, I was thinking to myself, geez, maybe if I just get back in my car, I could pay the cost of the hotel and just drive back and not worry about it. But of course, we kept going, and we got talked to some people that were somewhat interested. Talked to some people, which actually when you walk in the door because they know what they want. Obviously, that's rare. It doesn't happen all the time. But it was a good mix of one extreme to the other. So we basically spent 4 total days in the field on 2 separate trips. I learned a lot. And at the end of that 4th day, I really realized that, I can do this. This is something I can be successful at. And so the rest is history.
Right, yeah, and that's what's so important, I think, about doing the ride-alongs is just seeing it firsthand because, and from your personal experience coming from a white-collar scenario where the people you deal with are tenured professionals, they're degreed, they're in a different lifestyle and socioeconomic position. A lot of people don't realize the mass market out there and how, bluntly say, different they are from us. And it's good if you're going to commit to a career, number one, to see really truthfully how it is. Because like you said, this isn't right for everybody. The people that we deal with are a lot different than your typical Joe Schmo. But it's a reality that you have to see and I think experience to respect, but also to know for a fact and decide for yourself if this is something that you can do for the long run. And, it's because if all you do is read on the forum or read some sort of marketer's disposition of this market, it's all rainbows and sunshine. If you just do this, you get that, and you're filthy rich. Well, there's a lot of hard work to it. There's a lot of thought behind who you see and how you talk to them and the market you target. So, and there's the actual reality of employing or putting to work your system of doing business. So it was good. I'm glad in a way. It wasn't a couple of my best days in the field. In fact, it was a rougher time for me personally, but I was glad to see that you could see what, the business is like, the ups and the downs, so that you could get the full perspective of what really to expect in the field. So that's why I like doing the ride-alongs, because you get to see it, and nothing replaces, firsthand experience.
Put it this way, David, words can't describe what you see out there. You can read it all day long, but until you actually meet these people in person, and this is not demeaning to them, and it's just that they're just different lifestyles and different ways of doing things, and truly, you gotta experience it to really fully understand what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Most of the people we would deal with at work, maybe our peers that work in a corporate environment who've never been in sales would probably just their jaws would drop relaying the stories that we've experienced. Yeah, they would probably just be in shock and awe. Really, the daily experiences that we see out in the field. So, definitely agree with you on that.
Remember now, there's a thread on the Final Expense forum on FE funny happenings, and we could have added that guy as one of those deals. So, but anyway, you keep going. I was just wanting to.
Yeah, that thread should be required reading for a prospectful final expense agent, just to see what the funny stories and the people that we meet. I mean, there's a ton of them in there. So moving on. So of course, in the final expense business, the way FE is different. Final expense is different. Most final expense to succeed, most final expense agents to succeed, they need to have leads. Leads are really the number one concern most agents have when they get into the business. What leads do you use? How much do you get? Who do they attract? So on and so forth. And that's definitely a vital role that we employ in the mentorship program. Now, Chip and I and my agents, we have a proprietary lead program. My agents, when I bring them on, I talk about the importance. It can be a make or break thing in this business. It's very important to find the right lead vendor that's going to, provide quality at a price that will allow you to have margins of profit that will sustain you. So without giving away too much specifics, Chip, tell us how the leads work for you and how they played an impact on your business.
Okay. Well, basically, I place an order for a lead. Then in the next couple of days, they'll get an email back stating that you've got X amount of leads. Having those leads and getting the name, the address, and the phone number, most times you get male, female, and a lot of times you also get the age. I went and looked at them, and of course, in my area, kind of sort them based on zip codes. So I kind of, basically take those leads and kind of map out a strategy for them. Call them, and I'm going to say probably a good 50 to 60% are legitimate. You're always going to get tired. So you gotta understand that there's going to be a certain amount of fall off initially, and that's just the way the business is and the people that we're dealing with. So with that being said, you still got a good 50% of those leads that you make contact with and they're interested in meeting you. Now, of course, from that, you're going to get situations to where there's either no shows, they don't show, they're not there, you come or whatever, change their mind. So that kind of whittles it down a little bit more. But the speed in which I get the leads, the fact that they're pretty high quality, and that if you meet somebody, they're interested in buying something. They know they have a need. And so I guess from a starting out in the FE business perspective, direct marketing leads take weeks and weeks and weeks, and they're very expensive to get it started because you've got to throw a lot of business out there, a lot of those cards out there. Teleleads, you don't have to do that. And this is a nice way to have, if you don't have a huge marketing budget up front, and in this business, you've got to have money for marketing. You've got to, or you're not going to succeed. Because this is not a referral business like you ask your friends and so forth. This is a pure lead-driven business, and you got to understand that. In other parts of the insurance industry, it's not necessarily that way, but this it is. So I guess, personally, without these quick leads, it'd be really hard to start generating some decent income to be able to make it in this business. So I'm just basically, to me, as a new FE person, this is the way you got to do it.
Right, and the leads really make such a huge impact on your success, and that's why I've taken careful selection and time to find a lead vendor that actually provides quality leads that when you call them, they know what to expect. Most of the time are interested in life insurance. Not always, as there's always the deadbeats that waste your time. But more importantly, it's getting a program that helps you stay consistent, because the number one problem most agents have in this business is having people to talk to. And not just people to talk to. I mean, you can just door knock doors doing that. But having people that are actually interested in life insurance to talk to. And you need something that's consistent. You need something that's affordable, that will put you in front of the kind of people that want to do business, that are interested in having peace of mind and protecting their loved ones from the burdens of final expenses. And that's what we try to do for our agents. And it's so important in the beginning, too, to get something where you don't have to throw down $2,000-3,000 and not even get your first lead back and know if it's a good area to target or not, which is what a lot of the other carriers and large marketing organizations require you to do. So, in my opinion, I think, yeah, it's important to have something that's financially doable, but has actually does well to get you the business, the people to see. Moving on. So let's talk about your first full week in the field. So at this point, you've rode along with me. You've studied some material I've given you. You've learned, to some extent, your carriers that you started with. And now you've got your leads at hand. You're just about to set the appointments and run the appointments. So just give us an overall, for the guys that are maybe just getting started or, again, wanting to see what it's like for that first week. What was your first week's experience like in the field working final expense?
Well, if you remember, the Friday before my first week, you came up to visit, and I said, probably, I think it was about 5 appointments I booked for that day, and I did sell one policy. I think it was the first person who actually visited. But that day, as you remember, we had a wide range of people from both ends of the spectrum. So it was definitely an eye-opener. But again, I had you with me, so I had the support there. Going out on my own, I'm a very confident person, but you get nervous because it's the first time you're by yourself. This is still a new business to you, and so it's tough. I was able to make my appointments, and I made as many as I possibly could. I ended up being late for everybody, so I thought I had a good, nice day I went to. We sat down, and she actually pulled out a Lincoln Heritage policy. I'll never forget that. And she said, "Can you beat this price?" And looked at it and did my own calculations, and I was able to do it. But it was a no-brainer for her because it was a significant difference in the premiums. But that was my first time when I really saw somebody on my own, by myself, and then I did a replacement at the same time. So that was definitely a good first experience. During the week, I think if I remember right, I think I wrote 3 to 4 policies that week. And again, I was just starting out, so I made my own appointments. I don't have an appointment setter. And the reason why I don't have an appointment setter is I've always made appointments in my sales career myself. And nobody feels that appointment is as important as you do because it's your business. You don't have an appointment, you don't sell, you don't eat. And so I like doing my own appointments. I know you like using an appointment setter, and I can certainly appreciate what you do. And but I felt that was just for me personally. I like that better because I also get feel the client out too before I meet them, so I kind of understand where they're coming from. I did stumble a little bit at times during some of the appointments, but of course the other people didn't know what I was talking, didn't know what I was going to say, so I really will catch myself on a couple of things. I wrote about 3 more policies that week and did about 8,600 AP in my first month. So first week was really successful. In that first month of December, I did about $8,000 in annual premium, which blew me away, to be quite honest with you. It adds up really fast. And so after that, I looked at my wife. I said, this is going to work. So that's where I am with it now.
Right. And like we mentioned in the beginning, you now have a average, one of the things that experienced agents are probably very, very interested to hear about is how did you get an over $900 annual premium average? I mean, most of us agents, including myself, is much lower. We do a lot of singles and the occasional double and triple. We write a lot of $30, $40, $50 premiums and then get the large ones that drive the average up. But, you've done volume of business. And,
but
you're
in terms of my average, case size, so to speak, I'll be honest with you, I have sprinkled in there some pretty large premium cases that were in the, couple $1,000s a year deal. So that's probably skewed my average up a little bit. I would say without those, I would still stand in the $750 range probably, give or take a little bit on that. But Bottom line is I just had some fortunate, big sales. But the key is keep your pipeline full, keep talking to people. If you're not talking to people, you're not selling. And also the area where I'm at is I think most of the time is fairly, okay, this is going to sound like an oxymoron, an affluent final expense area. It's kind of like a oxymoron, like I said. But it's kind of true. These people kind of know what they want. Everybody's pretty much, as you will tell people, that are on 99% of them are on fixed income, so there's disability, Social Security, disability, small pensions, things like that. So money is always an issue with them, and so that, to me, for the most part, they know what they wanted. They basically set the money aside to do it, and they did it. So I've been very fortunate from that perspective.
Okay, and so moving on here, part of the mentorship program, of course, is that I'm available to help you with product placement, carrier selection. As you've probably discovered, and most agents who've been in it as long as you have, you can't have one carrier to write everything to the best of your ability. You have to carry a quiver of arrows, and with different arrows for different situations. So if you could, Chip, describe how I helped you over the phone as far as the tougher cases and how it was important to your business success in sealing deals.
Well, I think initially you had the right approach. Is when anybody new in this business, they're going to feel that they're drinking out of a fire hose. There's a lot of stuff coming at them. And you had the philosophy of, basically, let's start out with 2 carriers. You get appointed, and those 2 carriers can probably do 80% of the business out there. And learn those carriers backwards and forwards and sideways. So going into a house, when you start talking to people, you're already getting an idea based on what they're telling you from a health perspective, which company is going to be better for them. So that's always a nice thing to have in your back pocket. So in terms of sales assistance, from your perspective, you're always available to me on a phone call or a text, and so I was very grateful for that. And you really helped me understand this type of, insurance sale, how to approach it, what not to say, and what to say. So that's been very, very important to me, and the fact that you sent me initially some good information for me just to flat read and try to understand it and see the flow of things. And so your little scenarios that you gave in writing were really good for me. I really learned a lot. You started me out with 2 carriers, 5-star and Settlers, and you got appointed with them, and I learned their apps as best I could. And as I said, based upon what I'm hearing in health questions and the answers, guide me to which one of those 2 would be the best. And after I get comfortable with that, we started adding more carriers. So I think that you did the right thing with anybody. Start them out slowly. Don't give them too much because they can be overwhelmed and then get discouraged. And then that's not obviously the right attitude to have. But you basically said, let's move along slowly and steady. And it's worked out great, for me at least. I appreciated what you did. You also sent me an awesome spreadsheet showing me, the conditions of people, and based upon that, which carrier works the best. And so that was a huge thing to have that as a quote cheat sheet. I still use it today because there's always just some quick glances because there may be something that I've not come across, or a combination of issues. A diabetic that had a stroke, or a diabetic that's got neuropathy, or somebody who's had a stroke and has lupus. So there's a lot of things that you can combine in there to narrow it down into the FE company that you want to use.
Right. And the one thing I'll say about you, Chip, is that you have been exemplary in your usage of my ability to help you out. The one thing that in my opinion, what makes our relationship great, or any relationship with many of my agents, is that when you're in the home, you can pick the phone up and call me directly. Now, I may be running an appointment myself, but generally speaking, I get back to the phone or the text pretty quickly. And I know I can't remember any specific cases, but I know there's been a few where we've been able to get the right carrier and the right product to give the customer the best product, the best priced one with the best benefits. You're exemplary of what agents should do with their upline. You should have an active relationship with the person that's above you, because your upline, any upline, makes a cut off of your business, and you need to make sure that you're keeping them, you're holding them to the fire, and you're making them earn their cut of the business. But at the same time, it also helps you develop your game too as well. A lot of times, you'll get into an appointment and you may not think there's an opportunity. and you'll just turn around and walk away. But when you keep an active connection with your upline, they may see opportunity where you see none. And in case in point, one of those deals actually was a referral from another agent of mine. You know, he didn't realize that it was a pretty big universal life product opportunity. And we ended up, of course, mutually working on it together. And that thing turned into what was about a $275, $300 a month deal that, you know, that he walked out on. Important to have that connection, and I think you've done and continue to do a real good job, because I got to earn, in my opinion, earn my cut of the business, but also that helps you, you know, run a profitable business. So, you know, continuing here, I think we did a total of 2 ride-alongs. We did one early in the beginning, and then I think about 6 to 8 weeks later. You may have touched on this a little bit, but how did you feel the ride-alongs were? And let me clarify for the audience. I have all of my agents, if it makes geographical sense, to come ride along with me. Really big advantage, in my opinion, for what I can do is I like to ride along with my agents in their territories. There's a lot, just like seeing an agent with experience run appointments, as far as being illuminating, as far as being teachable or learnable from. It's just as beneficial, in my opinion, maybe even more beneficial, to have your upline ride along with you so he can, like a doctor, diagnose problems, maybe show opportunities where you didn't see any before, because, you know, you're on your home turf. You know, you're in action, and having that help can make a big difference. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts were on the ride-alongs and specifically how it helped develop you.
Yeah, well, I thought they were incredibly valuable, and the fact is that you did. You sat there. One thing what I liked about what you did is you sat there during the presentation when I was talking, and you were, you know, just nodding your head or whatever, but you weren't saying anything. Even when I got stuck, you kind of just sat back there and kind of see how I would recover. And to me, I felt very confident the fact that you were there, but also from the fact of that, yeah, I stumbled a little bit, but I can, you know, get out of that stumble and move forward. And so that helps with your confidence in front of people. And as I said, you don't have to event, and the people that you're going to deal with, you got to understand that too. You got to be going into this knowing that you're going to see things that you probably have never seen before. You're going to be in houses that you never thought you'd ever walk into. And that is their way of life. And so to them, it's normal. To you, it may not be. And the key is to keep a poker face on there when you walk in there and you see, I walked into my house and there was about 25 cats there. And I had never seen that many cats in a room. And so, but you got to miss a beat. Yeah, just sat down. Of course, when I got up, it looked like I was a cat because of all the cat hair on me. But the bottom line is you got to have confidence in yourself and knowing that to them, you are the expert. You're telling them what they need to do. Now, whether they're going to take that advice is another thing. But the fact is, they're relying on you to explain to them what they need, and that's a big key there. So our ride-along is you basically, and then after each appointment we had, you sat down. We kind of did a debrief on it. You know, what it could have been different, or you know, other things that you may have observed. But for the most part, it was incredibly valuable because I'm in the environment that I'm going to be in, and you're sitting there and you're helping me with positive, you know, enforcement, and it helps me learn and help me grow as an agent. So that to me is incredibly valuable, and you got to do it. You got to have your upline ride with you to see and make sure that, because they're an outside observer. They can kind of look at it from a different perspective and give you pointers that will help you, and that's the key. Or tell you things that you shouldn't say, things like that. So it's a net positive all the way around. I know it takes some time out of your territory, but in reality, you know, that's part of what you do is you're a mentor, and so part of mentoring is working with somebody in their environment and being able to help them out with that.
Right. Now, as we kind of detailed in the beginning, you have completed the mentorship program, which basically meant that you hit a specific premium quota And I with all my agents, I bring them on at a subcontract or sub-street contract level. And the reason into my agents, now that you've hit the quota, you've been moved to street level, and you've closed, well over 50 policies. You've had a variety, like you said, of experiences in the final expense industry, in the world that we deal with and the people that we see. If you were speaking maybe to somebody listening to this that was thinking about entering this field, can you give them, and I know you really have over the entirety of this call, but can you summarize more or less what a real-world view of this business is like, and what they can expect, and specifically, what's good about it, and then what's, bad about it?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, bottom line is it's a great opportunity to make really good money, setting your own hours, and being your own boss. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's really true. And the other thing that I liked what you told me to do was, the old adage of kids, keep it simple, stupid. Basically just, this is not rocket science. You don't want to get too technical because you're going to lose your client. That part of it is, it's a business that is easy to learn when you really make a commitment to it. You can pick it up. And again, as I said before, I like setting my own appointments. Some people want to do appointment setters. That's fine too, but I just feel that I have the vested interest in making each appointment because I'm going to be the one selling it. But getting in terms of your good and the bad, well, as I said, the good part is, you're your own boss, and really you only have to report to one person, that's your spouse. And being able to set your own appointments on your own schedule, there may be a time during the week. Like a lot of the really high volume FE guys, they work 2 to 3 days a week, that's it. And they spend time doing other things. And so they've said in the past that, this is one of these businesses where you can make a very, very, very good living working 2 or 3 days a week. Now, the average person's going to see this, I can work 2 to 3 days a week. That's when you're really going strong and you know what you're doing. Initially, I work 5 days a week, sometimes 6, not 8 to 10 hours a day per se, but I do, spend a lot of time making sure that I get the appointments and so forth, and sometimes that requires a little bit extra work. But I like the one and done part of the sale. Pretty much you go in, you write an app, and you walk out, either with a check or with the EFT information, and you're done with that. And so that to me is huge. I like the ability, being independent, to be able to pick and choose the insurance companies I want to work with. I tell clients that I don't work for any insurance companies. I work for you. I'm on your side. I want to get you the best deal I possibly can. I have 10 companies that I work with, and based upon your health, I'm able to steer you to a company that will give you the face amount that you want, but a low-level premium. And that's the key, low-level premium. Most of the time, they're not used to that. If they've got AARP or something like that, one every 5 years, their premiums go up. Plus, it's a term policy. It's going to terminate anyway. And again, the fact is that if for some reason a company isn't working out, I'll dump them. Now we get another company. So there's a lot of flexibility there. You're not beholden to one company. If you're a captive agent, you don't have a choice. And did I say, again, great commissions. Street level is amazing, and you pay your dues, but then once you go to street level, it's a whole different ball game. So you're like in the minor leagues when you first start out, and then you go into the majors. I like sports analogies. But you're ready to go. You get the big contract, and you move forward. But even doing that, you're still available to me anytime I need you. And so that's a huge plus also. So even though I'm on my own, I'm not really on my own. I have support, and that's a huge thing. Now, obviously with this, there's got to be some bads there. You wouldn't believe me when I'm talking. So bottom line is that you got to deal with people who are lacking in manners, not all, personal hygiene, and common sense. I know it sounds bad, but it's true. And you just gotta understand that you're dealing with somebody that you may have to say something 5 times for them to get it, or you may have to say it a different way. I'm a big believer of using analogies and things like that in terms of, for example, that type of things, to make them understand what we're doing. You have to have patience. And I'll be honest with you, I'm 80 TD, so I'm blowing and going, and it bugs the heck out of me when I get a no-show. But then again, I say, okay, now what I'm doing is if I get a no-show, I say, okay, it gives me a chance to call to make other appointments. So I always use the time as effectively as I possibly can. You get people you'll call and they'll say, oh, I never left that message, and you listen to the recorded message that they left. But again, that's just people in general. You need to have a thick skin because some people are really rude. They're just rude. And, but don't take it personally because they're rude to everybody. So it's just one of those things. So just take it with a grain of salt, but you just have to have a thick skin. And it may take some time to spend some money on some leads before you actually start getting some commissions and apps written. Don't get discouraged because there's been days where I've gone through 5 appointments and I didn't get any. And then the next day I'll write 3 apps and it's my week. So I mean, it's up and down. You never know the next call, the next door knock, what it's going to do for you. It could be huge. I went into a house one time. I mean, it was horrible. I was afraid to sit down. It was that bad. I walked out with a $100 a month insurance policy. So don't, the old adage, don't tell a book by its cover. It's true because sometimes I've gone into houses that are really nice. I walked out with nothing. So it's like the old Forrest Gump thing, nice box of chocolates. These things like that. You never know what you're going to get until you walk into that house and start talking to people. So that's a bad thing, but it's also a good thing too because it's never dull. But getting back to the spending money on leads, if you don't spend money on leads, you're not going to be in this business very long, and that's the key. You can't be in this business and be underfunded. If you are, you might as well be looking for something else because you're not going to make it. And that's pretty much it for the bad.
Yeah, and I think you hit on some good golden nuggets there. I mean, number one, you always have to have money set up for your leads. That's critical. That's number one, in my opinion. The right leads, of course, but at least have somebody to talk to because that's the way that we write business. And then, number two, there is an up and down of this business. It's one thing I can tell you with utmost honesty that I still struggle with, and I think all agents do to various degrees, but, you cannot judge your success in this business on a daily basis. Now, of course, you have to run each appointment. You have to do everything you can, everything in your power to sell the appointment, but that doesn't mean you're going to. You want to lose the right way. But you may lose the right way on 5 of your appointments, or 3 on them, and then the other 2 no-show. But you have to continually force yourself and habitualize looking at a longer-term perspective, on a weekly or even a monthly basis of your performance because, while the results are random in the short term, the law of large numbers tends to produce a more consistent income. And, you have to just train yourself to think like that. So it's good that you recognize that. Every agent has frustrations when it comes to getting out there and working. But if you keep to it, you work your system as you planned it, typically it continues to work. Lastly, a couple questions here and we'll be good to go. And Chip, I really appreciate your time, of course.
My pleasure.
If you would, summarize the top 3 most beneficial reasons to do the final expense mentorship program overall.
David Duford. There, that's it. But in all seriousness, it is that because having somebody, and you have a track record of being successful in all of the different companies that you worked with initially starting out and being independent now. So, as I said, you don't go to people who write books and never do anything and try to be successful. You go to people who walk the walk and talk the talk. And you do that. You've been successful. You emulate people that, like yourself, that know what they're doing. Your support is second to none. I can pretty much pick up the phone, either text you or call you just about any time I want, and you're either going to be there or you'll be right back to me and give me the answers that I need, and that's huge. So you being successful, you having the support, and the training information that you sent me in terms of reading up on things and kind of going through scenarios and writing and things like that, and a script for both phone call appointments, making the appointments, and also when you're in there in front of the person. So that's huge too. So basically, who you are, your track record. Your support is fantastic. And bottom line is you train the material that you gave me. It's been great. It's really helped out a lot.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that. And, of course, I have to ask at the very end here, what could I do better? I always constant improvement's important to me, and I always want to look at ways to make my program better for my agent. What could I do better, in your opinion, now that you've completed the mentorship program?
Well, this is going to sound sappy, but I can't think of anything specifically right now. In terms of support, you're pretty much always there, and so I can't tell people enough how important that is, because if you just started this business and you're new, even if you've been in 6 months, you're always going to come across things that you're like, I've never seen that before. Give David a call, and he probably has, and he can help you, work your way through it. Or if it hasn't, he can at least work with you to help you, solve the problem. So at this point in time, not really anything. You're one person, so you're stretched thin as it is. But as I say, that the biggest thing is the support. That's what makes or breaks you in this business, is having the support of people who know what they're doing and are willing to help you out.
Great. Well, I really did ask that question. Wasn't trying to set it up for a real nice response. I'll let the audience know. I actually am concerned if there is anything I could do better, but
but you always tell me that about your feedback.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm big on it. It's very important, because in my experience or my position, my agents I have to be responsible for you and your success. And I can't make you go work, but I can do everything up to that point. You have to carry the water, but I can. It's my responsibility, and I think my duty to employ or to empower you to do everything that you can, or to prepare you for battle, for lack of a better description.
Sure.
So that's where a good upline comes in, and that's what their dedication should be to. So in closing, I just want to again thank you for your time, Chip. Hopefully this conversation has been illuminating for the people that are listening on the phone call right now. I will add that it's been a pleasure to work and continue to work with Chip. He's a gentleman and a friend, and especially taking time out of his busy day to do this with just out of the goodness of his heart. Thanks for that, Chip. And if you find interest in this program and would like to investigate further the mentorship program, please visit my website. It is www.f as in Frank, E as in expense, agentmentor.com. There you can read some of my blog and my articles about my personal production, as well as just some insights in the industry. You can listen to my Truth About Final Expense Industry recording. Lots of information there for a guy who's looked around and isn't sure about where to plant his flag and find his home. Lots of good information there. But in the meantime, I want to thank you again, Chip, and thanks for everybody for listening.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.